Hey guys and girls, thanks for watching. By the way, what do you think about that shirt, huh? Can you see that? Yep. If you want one of those, email me and I'll tell you how to get one. Anyway, thanks for coming back to the channel, and we got a great video lineup today. I'm pumped. Why? Because we got some good stuff to talk about today, that's why. So, without further ado, let's talk about item number one. I received in the mail package. This is not an unboxing channel, but we're going to go ahead and unbox this. Where's my scissors? Wait, I think I can do this with my hands. There we go. Okay, we got a package in a package. Excuse me. That didn't work out too well. Why do they have to package this in such a way? There we go. Can you see that? That, my friends, is a Donkey Kong cartridge. We're going to play it today. We're going to check it out. We're going to see how well the Atari version of Donkey Kong plays. I think it's pretty good, actually. What else do we got lined up for today? Oh, I received my disk drive. Check this out. This, people, is the Atari 1050 disk drive. And this one happens to have a US doubler enhancement chipset, okay? I'm going to talk to you about that real quick. What is the US doubler and what does it do? Okay. From what I remember and from what I read this morning, I did a little research on it, because I used to have one of these in my drives back in the old days. The 1050 disk drive with the US doubler enhancement chip made by ICD Incorporated, no longer in business, obviously. It gave you a 3 times speed increase when used with the proper DOS. They made their own DOS, ICD did, called Sparta DOS, and different versions of Sparta DOS, including the last version I believe they made, which was Sparta DOS X. The drive's fully compatible with single and dual density softwares and other DOSes and other programs. It's fully compatible with your disks. But what the Sparta DOS allows you to do is it allows you to do a much higher data transfer rate. It increases the SIO baud rate, which is the serial input-output interface built into the Atari. It increases the baud rate from 19.2K to 54K. So there you go. It also formats the drive in what they call an ultra-speed sector skew. It allows many sectors read per revolution. It basically allows it to read more information for every revolution of the disk drive. So you combine that enhanced format with the higher baud rate, and you get this. You'll see later on when we do a video where we format the disk and actually read and write to it. You'll hear the read and write beep, which is normally like a slow beep. You'll hear it almost like rapid machine fire, and you'll know that the drive is reading and writing much faster. Okay, so we're going to get into some of that. I got another surprise for you guys. Now, those of you who were around in the Atari hacking days back in the mid-'80s, you probably remember a product called Omnimon. Omnimon was a chip, it's an additional OS chip that was installed inside the computer. And basically it's a resident language, a machine language monitor, okay? You could press a special key. I think it was system reset along with the option or the select key. It doesn't matter what you're running on the computer. It doesn't matter what state you're in the computer. You hit that key combination and boom, you're into a machine language monitor. Their computer's frozen, but whatever software you were using, it gets you into the machine language monitor. You can debug, you can read and write memory, you can load and read to the disk drive. I mean, you can get in there and hack the computer. You can look at the program in memory, you can modify registers, you can assemble, you can disassemble. It really was the hacker's tool for the Atari. It gives you complete control over the computer. Like I said, you can examine and modify memory or any one of the 6502 CPU's registers. Okay, you can also dump data to a printer if you have a printer. Which, by the way, I'm really interested in getting a dot matrix printer, a line printer. I know they're still available with a parallel interface. We can get that connected to the Atari. I'd actually like to do some printouts for some old school dot matrix printing. And I think I told you that you can read and write to the disk drive without the use of DOS. Again, this is with the Omnimon. Let me show you the board that I found. This is a highly sought after piece of equipment because these are you rarely see these, okay? I don't know if you can see this on camera, okay? This is a PCB that has 3 sockets with a 3-position toggle switch, okay? What you can do is, let me see if I can take this out of the bag without damaging it. I've got 2 ROMs, or 2 EEPROMs that came with this, okay? You can probably see right here. I don't know if you can read those, but one says Omnimon XL, the other one says OmniView. Okay? So these 2 ROMs, one of them is the Omnimon, the machine language, the in-resident machine language monitor. The other one is was also developed, by the way, the gentleman that developed this technology, his name is David Young, okay? There's actually a podcast from, I can't remember the actual magazine or the publication, I think it was ANTIC Podcasts. It's actually run and hosted by a gentleman named David Savitz. I'll put the link in the description to the podcast. The guy's name is David Young. It's a great interview. I recommend everyone go listen to it. Actually, I recommend everybody subscribe to that podcast. David Savitz has tons of interviews with guys from back in the Atari days that wrote software, that developed hardware. I mean, the guys that made the Atari scene what it was. He's got their interviews at that location. So I'll provide the link to you for David Young. But anyway, David Young developed this OmniView, and he also developed the Omnimon, and he also developed a product called OmniView. OmniView was a product that gave you 80 columns on the Atari. So you could boot the computer and with a hotkey or with a JSR instruction into a specific memory location where the routine was located from BASIC, you could get 80 columns by 24 lines. And they did that by putting the Atari into graphics mode 8. And what they were doing is, instead of the 8x8 character font for the normal 80 columns, they put it in a graphic mode 8, and they reduced it to 4x8, which allowed them to get double the width of the columns per line. It's a pretty good little trick that they used. I think I used it back in the day, and I don't remember how well it worked, but guess what? I have it, and we're going to check it out. Not today, but maybe next time, next video. All right, so we talked about Omnimon. We talked about the 1050 with the US doubler enhancement chip. What else? So basically, well, we talked about that. All right, next. Oh, one other thing. Wes Newell. Wes Newell is the gentleman, I believe, that developed the board. David Young developed the software, the Omnimon and the OmniView. Wes Newell produced this board, which I believe is called the Ramrod XL. I believe. I know he developed, there was a couple boards out there that were developed, but I believe this is his. It's a 3x27128, which is the socket, with a single 3-position switch. All right, so the 3-position switch, basically what that allows you to switch between Omnimon, OmniView, and your stock ROM, which you're going to take out and put in as one of the 3 chips in the 3 sockets. So you can have your base ROM, your stock ROM, you're going to have the Omnimon ROM, and then you're going to have the OmniView ROM. So that's going to be interesting. All right. And in the next video, we'll actually install that. I'll show you how we open the computer, install the board. I probably won't drill a hole in the computer to put the switch. We'll have the switch just hanging out to the side. So anyway, next video, we're also going to talk. We're going to get into Spartados with the Atari 1050 with the US doubler. I've got some discs ordered. By the way, quick story. I went searching for floppy disks online the other day, and I didn't know that floppy disks were no longer manufactured anywhere in the world. I thought there might be some small corner of the planet where someone was still producing floppy disks. That's not the case. Floppy disks are not manufactured anymore. I don't think they've been manufactured for a decade or so. So you have to find either new disks that are still sealed in their original wrapping and buy them from distributors who still have them, or just buy used diskettes and reformat them and repurpose them. So, make a long story short, I found a company, the URL, www.floppydisk.com. That's simple, floppydisk.com. What they've done is, I guess they go around and they buy surplus disks, from duplicating companies in the past that had, stocked, millions of these disks. We're talking 5 1/4 floppies, we're talking 3.5-inch floppies with the hard shell case, even the 8-inch floppies. Floppydisk.com, they have a pretty good stock of them. I ordered a box of 50 5 1/4 double-sided, double-density discs for, I want to say it was $50, so $1 a disc. And they're new, wrapped, whatever year they were made. And from what the guy was telling me, I actually called him on the phone and I said, hey, what are the odds that these discs are going to work? And he says, pretty good odds. He says it's a pretty good 90 to 95% that the discs, you know, from what they hear the customers, that they work. So I ordered 50 of those. So that should be a lot of discs for us to get started with formatting, play around with Sparta-DOS, check out the US doubler, create some boot discs from, you know, image files that we can find on the net, and have a good time with the disk drive. So we're going to do that in the next video. We're also going to take a quick look at Omnimon and OmniView, just how to get into them and some of the basics of it. And this video we're going to talk about more basic, and the next video we're going to talk about more basic as well. We're going to continue this series of learning basic until we've, you know, exhausted all the commands and everybody's got a good feel for using it. And then at some point we're going to get into the assembler, which I told you we were going to get into. I have the Atari assembler cartridge, and we're going to start doing some assembly language as well. So lots of good stuff coming up, folks. Stick around. Don't go anywhere. All right, here we go. Let's take a look at Donkey Kong. As you guys know, I love playing games from cartridge. They load quickly, and this happens to be one of my favorite games of all time, Donkey Kong by Nintendo. I can't tell you guys how many hours I spent playing this game, how many quarters I wasted playing this game. One of my favorite games to play in the arcade. Let's see if I can make it past the first level. It's been a long time. As you can see though, the gameplay is pretty authentic to the arcade game. The graphics, pretty good. The sound's pretty decent. I think this was probably one of the best renditions of Donkey Kong on any home computer. I think I also played this on the Commodore 64, which I think also was a pretty good version. I know the Atari 2600 version was awful. Oh, now I'm in a pickle. Can I jump this guy? Yeah. That was always a gutsy move to jump over the fireball. There we go. I can't believe I'm actually doing this well. So anyway, it goes through a couple back and forth between this main screen and that building girder level. And I believe this Atari version also has the Pie Factory, which was a pretty intense level. Let's see if I can get there. Oh. Wow, I actually made it 3 levels without getting killed. Remarkable. Oh, didn't expect this level. But I do remember this level. Let's see if we can do it. Passing this level is all about timing. That little spring thing would get you every time near the top. Oh, just like that. Ay, ay, ay. Come on, Rick, you can do it. See if we can take a shortcut. No, I'm not even going to try. I seem to remember being able to hit that top level without having to actually come down here. Now, if you stand here and just time this right. Oh! One more shot, guys. Can we do it? Come on. Come on, Mario, or Luigi, or whatever your name is. Oh, almost got killed on the nose right there. All right, so this thing bounces. Oh! All right, well, I gave it my best try, guys. Anyway, that's Donkey Kong for the 8-bit. Let's move on to some basics, shall we? I think I'll probably have much better luck typing than I can playing Donkey Kong today. Now, I just want to make a correction from the last video. We had talked about setting margins with the poke statements. So we did a poke 82-0, which brought the left margin from 2 to 0. And then I also did a poke 83, 39, which would set the right margin to 40. But one thing I didn't tell you guys, or I misquoted, was that the right margin is already set at 0, or allows you to go all the way over to 40. So there's no reason to do this poke statement unless you modify it, to begin with. So poke 82.0 gets you with a 0 column, which gets you 40 columns, and you're good to go. So that was the first thing. I found a new book online, and I ordered it. This is basically the manual for the Atari 130XE, okay? The owner's manual. This book is great. It talks about the hardware, it talks about the ports, how to hook it up, and more importantly, it talks about programming, okay? Basic programming, there you go. Programming with Atari Basic. So not only do we have our basic Atari Basic, we also have from Atari the actual manual for the computer that talks about basic programming. So we've got now 2 books we can look at. Okay. Very cool. Good stuff. Highly recommend this book if you have a 130X. I think also the 800XL manual that came with the 800XL and the 600XL also talked in basic as well. But anyway, just thought I'd mention that to you guys. So what can we do? So the last video we talked about some things. We talked about numbers, we talked about line numbers, we talked about comments, we talked about go-to statements, if-then statements. I wanted to show you a trick today that we used to use back in the days to clear the screen. If you had a program, so let's say we had a program that, printed, "Hi, please tell me your name." And then we asked the user for the name. By the way, this is a string variable, which we didn't talk about in the last video, but we'll go ahead and talk about it today. I'll tell you about that. Let me just finish writing this real quick, and then I'll tell you about the clearing the screen. So we asked them for their name, and then we're going to say, "Nice to meet you," whatever your name is. All right, so let's run that. "Hi, please tell me your name." "Rick." "Oh, error. Why did that happen?" Because we didn't do this. And I will get into this as well, what that does. Let's try that again. "Hi, please tell me your name." "My name is Rick." "Nice to meet you, Rick." So the reason why I wrote this quick program is you notice how every time I run it, it just starts where we left off, right after the run statement. So what we can do, though, is to make the screen clear and give us a fresh screen is, at the beginning of the program, we can do a print, quote. Now what we do is there's a special character for the clear screen. You hit escape, and then you hit control, clear, and then you close your quotations. You see that little arrow, that little left pointing arrow? Okay, what that's going to do is, that's going to print the clear screen character. And what that clear screen character is going to do is it's going to clear our screen. So watch now when we run the program. We start out with a fresh clear screen. So that might be kind of cool to know. And since we went ahead and used some string variables in this program, let's go ahead and talk about the dim statement and string variables. So in the last video we did something along the lines of input A. And that allows you to input a number. Okay? Well, you can do the same for characters, non-numeric or alphanumeric, if you will. The only trick is you can't just start off with, by the way, string variables end with the $sign character. So the variable name that you're going to use, for example, name, and then you put a $sign. You can't actually go ahead and try and assign. Wow. Well, it did because I already have it dimensioned from the program. Let's type new. Little nuances of basic. Now let's try and do name string. Error 9. Okay. So what does error 9 mean? Well, let's learn about errors and how we can find out what they mean. In the back of your book, or at least any good programming book, there should be an appendix of errors. So as we can see, Basic Atari Basic, Appendix G. We've got error codes and their meanings. So let's go over to error 9. Error 9. There we go. Can we see that? Error 9. It says array or string dimension error. And you may have dimension an array or string too large. you may have forgotten to dimension an array. Remember particularly that all strings must be dimensioned before the program encounters them. So, very important to know, when you're dealing with string variables in BASIC, okay, you have to do what's called a dimension with the dim keyword, the variable name, followed by the $, which tells the BASIC interpreter that we're dealing with a character string, and then the number of characters you would like to reserve or dimension for that array. So what you end up with is, if you could picture 50 cells or 50 boxes next to each other, that would be boxes 0 through 49. Those boxes can each contain a character. So for this particular name string, we can store 50 characters. So I could put my name, Rick. I could put my full name, Rick space Lopez. If I had this long middle name with a long first and a last name, you know, maybe I could get away with 25, but for example, 50 is a good number to work with. So you always want to dimension your string variables large enough to the maximum value you think you're going to be storing into it. Okay. Now, once you dimension that array, you can then use the input statement to ask the user to fill that in for you. Okay. Now, even though the program has stopped running, that variable is still available in the memory space. Okay. So those are string variables and how to use them. And you're going to be using those a lot in BASIC because you're going to be dealing with strings and you're going to be asking input for strings, and so variables are very important to use in BASIC programs. So the next thing we're going to get into is random events. Random events meaning randomizing numbers. That's what we're going to talk about. Randomizing numbers, or getting a random number generated by the computer and given back to us. So looking here in the manual, BASIC includes exactly what we need for doing this. It's called the RND. So RND meaning random, it produces a random number. RND is a little quote, open quote, black box, close quote in BASIC that brings forth a number at random each time it's mentioned. Atari Basic returns decimal numbers in the range of 0 to 0.99999. There's 11 nines. 0.9999999. Okay. The number enclosed in the parentheses is called the argument, and it can have any value at all, but it must be there. So you can use whatever you want here, just as long as you have some letter there. Okay. The random numbers generated will not depend on this value. So basically, in our examples, we're just going to use 0, because I think that's the standard that most people use. All right. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to type new, and we're going to type, we're going to clear the screen by Control Clear. There we go. And we're going to type a little program that generates some random numbers. So let's start our program off with a comment that says, generate a few random numbers. All right, let's do, let's set a variable name I equal to 1. And then let's print a random number using the RND function we just talked about. And then let's increase I by 1. Remember, we talked about this in the last video, how to increase a variable. And then we're going to use our if statement. If I is, remember this guys, less than or equal to 10, then go to back to where we printed. All right, let's run it and see what happens. Well, there you go. Look at that. So we generated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 random numbers, and we printed them out on the screen. Okay, 10 times. So there you go, random function. And let's make a modification to line 30. Remember, the random statement generates a number between 0 and 0.999999999, right? So those are all going to be pretty small numbers. So what can we do to increase that? Let's go over here. Let's go back up here. Hey, wait a minute. Did my line number take? Did I press enter? Apparently I didn't press enter. Let's run that again. Aha! That's the output I was looking for. So you see what happened? We increased the range of numbers by multiplying times 6. What happens if we go up to the line? Let's see what that gives us. Hey, what do you know? There you go. So basically what we've done is by multiplying all the numbers in the range of 0 to 1, which is what the random function gives us back, by a number, we get a result from 0 to that number. Right? Or actually we get including 0 and excluding the number, or up to the number, is what I'm trying to say. Okay? So that's kind of neat. So let's talk about another important way of counting or looping in BASIC. All right, so let's type new. Let's start a new program. So in BASIC we have what's called a for next loop. Okay, so we can say, for example, for counter equals 1 to 7. Then we can go line 30, print the counter, and then 40, next counter. Let's run it. So let's talk about this program for a second here. Line 10 is a remark, we know what that does. Line 20 says for counter, for variable counter equals 1 to 7. So this is going to basically set up a variable that's going to start at 1 and increase to 7. And then the next line says print the counter, and then the closing for loop command called next. Next counter means go back up to the for loop, increment counter to the next value, and continue. So basically your for next loops are always going to be executed at least once. That's important to remember. And inside that loop, it's going to be executed X amount of times until that second number or the second criteria is met. Anyway guys, I think that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed everything. The next video we're going to get into what we talked about with the hardware. We're going to look at the Sparta-DOS. We're going to look at the Omnimon and the installation of that, and we're going to get into some more basics. So until then, please subscribe, please like, give me some comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.